we have with us a special guest, Dale Hoffman. So just going back a little bit, my name is Amit Ravlani. I am the Senior Director of Technology Alliances at Cloudian, and my very good friend Dale Hoffman here, Director of Global Alliances and Business Development at Veeam, is our chief guest. And I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Dale. And Dale, we're glad to have you on this webcast with us, where we're going to talk a little bit about how Veeam and Cloudian, with our resellers, are a perfect match for data protection. Welcome, Dale.
Yes, thank you, Amit and Andreas.
So Dale, before we dive into Veeam v12, which obviously is the flavor of the day, Valentine's Day, V-Day, V12 Day, as you like it, let's touch a little bit about on our relationship. I mean, we talk almost every week or maybe more times a week, but let's give our audience a little flavor of what the relationship and the partnership is like.
Yeah, and thank you. Yeah, thank you, Amit. So, first of all, thank you for having me today. Cloudian has been such a valued partner. We've really treasured the relationship and the partnership that we've had with Cloudian. I've heard nothing but good things from Cloudian sellers, Veeam sellers, our own, technical folks. And the fact that our products, I think, they complement each other very, very well, where Veeam essentially provides a lot of that backup and recovery. And of course, Cloudian protects that data in the object storage. It's just, I think, a really good relationship. And I really think there's even going to be taking it to the next level, because we're coming up with a new global alliance opportunity management process where we're going to work a little bit closer together in terms of sharing, pipeline and leads and trying to do more co-sales. So I think the future is going to even be brighter for both of us and such. Now, if you think about what are some of the driving forces that are out there, we all understand what's going on from a ransomware, perspective. I mean, we see it in the news almost every single day. And this is where I really think, Veeam, with the technology that we bring to the table, and Cloudian with your Hyperstore, with Object Lock for the tight, I'll call it airtight immutability, can really help a lot of our mutual customer base, so that if they are attacked by ransomware, we essentially can help them recover very, very fast and get back into production. And another example that comes to mind is some of the things that we've done with VMware, in particular their Sovereign Cloud initiative. I think this is going to be something that is very, very big moving forward. And the reason I say that is data sovereignty in all these various geo regions around the world is going to become very, very important. And the fact that VMware chose Cloudian and Veeam as featured products in this, I think, is a good testament to the strengths of our technology and our relationship. And then finally, I remember as a customer of Veeam a few years ago in my previous job, how excited I was for version 11, especially with CDP or continuous data protection, because of the customer base that I had. That was so important to me. And now today I'm in Veeam and we're talking about version 12, and there is just numerous different things going in. The entire company is really excited, about this and such. So I think the big thing is this whole direct right to object storage is something that I think Cloudian's been waiting, as well as our customers, for quite some time. So Mitt, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Before I go ahead, right, you mentioned ransomware protection, object log. I do want to mention, from a relationship partnership perspective, that has been the whole area that made our relationship even closer and made it blossom to new heights. We worked with Veeam closely when V10 was launching, which was the object lock release. And, based on what we did with the product team, with the engineering team. We have really worked on making sure that the integration works to the expectation of our customers. I mean, we have several dozen petabyte size customers, and some of the customers actually going into the tens of petabytes for on-prem use cases with Veeam. Now that's almost unheard of in other areas, and that's something that this audience should take out of this conversation, that the integration with Veeam and Cloudian, between Veeam and Cloudian, is more than just a paper integration. It is an integration at the product level, at the engineering level, and that's going to continue with V12. With V12, we've got integrations around SOS API. We worked with the product teams on making sure there's integration on authentication and access controls, and a whole gamut of features which your customers, your enterprise customers, are going to expect out of your solution. And especially anytime you get over the 500 terabyte range, that's what you're going to want to see. Okay, with that, let's talk about the most important topic of the day, V12. And Dale, why don't you take us through the whole V12 launch and the V12 feature set that's going to be important for this audience?
Okay, I'd be delighted to, admit. So first of all, the one that I think everybody's been waiting for is what we're doing with object storage. And before I start on this, I think that our development team, they drastically simplified a lot of the object storage engine, which improves performance and reliability, which is something that I think our mutual customers will benefit from. Also, as part of this smarter object storage, we've simplified a lot of the communications, and the direct result of this is this will lower costs by decreasing the number of API calls. But probably the most important thing in terms of lowering the overall cost is being able to go direct to object storage without having to go through some immediate storage, such as block storage. This will drastically improve I think a lot of the customers' overall costs and such. Also, something that will help Cloudian is this whole idea of protecting files on NAS. So any file that's essentially stored on NAS as a source can now be backed up directly into the Cloudian Hyperstore object storage. And the net result of that is that'll obviously improve a lot of the efficiency and lower costs and such. And then finally, a big theme of what we're doing with version 12, and it really, I think, ties very well into the complete Veeam and Cloudian story, is this whole trust and immutability and such. So we're going to be able to get a lot better efficiency across a lot of multi-clouds, and carry that value proposition throughout wherever the customer is running their workloads. I think the other important thing is being able now to put this multi-factor authentication kind of gives you that one more barrier for a hacker or ransomware attack to get in. So you can kind of stop a lot of those cyber threats at the door. Having our ability with Veeam to actively detect any type of threats or malicious behavior, and being able to get rid of those and clean them out before the data restore into the actual production environment is important. And then finally, we can now do a clean restore within our VRO, or our Veeam recovery orchestrator. So now that secure restore is actually part of that orchestrated recovery. So let's go on to the next chart, and I'll just take it through a high level example. So this is just very, very simple, right? Just shows direct right to object storage, something I'm sure you guys very familiar with. But like I said, in the past, we have been able to do our backup jobs, and we had to go through this intermediary storage before we got to object. So now being able to go directly in there, as we said before, is a huge benefit to our customers in terms of cost. And then likewise in the picture down below, as part of our 3-2-1, Veeam backup rules, where we like to have at least 3 copies of the data, just kind of showing that you could still, even going direct to object storage, have 2 of those copies where you can go to object storage repository and then back that up too, just for that additional safety measure of having multiple copies. Now, if we go on into the next chart, this is an example just kind of talking about the whole ransomware protection architecture. And we're leveraging, in this particular example, protecting VMware workloads that are running on vSphere. Now, in version 11, what we would do is essentially write that data into various primary backup tiers. And that was really done for anybody that wants to keep, let me call it, some performance tier, that if they want to access that data within, keep 2 weeks or a month's worth of data in there, that they'd be able to do that. One of those was the hardened Linux repository, which you essentially can turn on the immutability right within our GUI, and now carry that immutability from start to finish, meaning from that hardened Linux repository all the way into Cloudian, hyperstore, so that you have complete immutability the whole way. Now, what's changing in version 12? Go to the next chart. Very simple. Go direct into object storage, right into Cloudian hyperstore. You still have the optional path if you wanted that performance tier, but it's no longer a requirement to get into Cloudian hyperstore. So big benefit, big announcement on what we're doing with version 12. And really pleased that Cloudian is enthused and excited about this. And I see a lot of good business for both of our companies moving together. So Mitt, I'll turn it back over to you.
And I'll add to this, guys. A lot of you guys out there, our partners, our customers, direct customers have been asking us for a long time, why do I need a primary tier or a performance tier if I don't really need, a very, very quick RTO time, for example, and this whole movement towards V12 with to direct object with V12 with Veeam, is Veeam actually answering those calls and simplifying your data protection workflow. With the Linux hardened repository, Veeam had added the hardened repository at the performance tier, but there was always this idea that some of the competitors would use about the performance tier not having immutability at the NAS layer, which was typically what enterprise customers ended up using. And this again is a no gap alternative with immutability that Veeam has answered, and it's going direct to object storage, which is where most of the enterprise customers are going to for their backup needs. And now with Veeam and Cloudian with V12, you have a direct to object route, which actually protects your data end to end in a one-click manner. What this does for you is simple, right? Clearly, it is reducing complexity by taking out one tier that you could use. That's still an option, but you don't have to use that. So if you want to simplify your architecture, you are able to do that end-to-end immutability in one click, which is what I just mentioned. And then the third thing is, obviously, if your performance tier is no longer required and you're no longer doing it, adds a huge cost savings to you. Because remember, if you're an enterprise customer, you're using a NAS file or in some cases even block storage. That's expensive, and it can be as much as 40 to 50% of the storage cost of the whole solution. And our customers, as they use this architecture of Veeam backing up into the server on object storage, you are also looking at the right architecture, right object sizes, which can have a huge impact on the kind of performance tier you need. further needing you to add more of that storage, and therefore adding a lot of cost to the whole thing. So the cost reduction is going to be a huge one for your customers. It is a simplification of the architecture, end-to-end ransomware protections without a gap, single click. That's actually important. And it's up to 70% TCO over older versions and going to the cloud and other storage options, right? Trouble-free integration. You guys know Cloudian has been Veeam ready, object certified, object immutability certified for more than 3 years now. The integration works. We have very, very deep integrations with Veeam v12, and your customers will see it as they scale. This solution will scale better than any other solution out there, right? With that, I'm going to turn it back to Andrea to wrap it up.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for joining us today, Dale Hoffman of Veeam, our honored guest. And thanks, Amit. It was a great presentation, guys. That really covered, I think, everything, at least at a high level that we're going to be doing new with Veeam v12. Happy V12 day. And remember, as you see there on the screen, for everything you need to know about Veeam v12, go to cloudian.com/Veeam. Thanks so much for joining, everybody, and have a fantastic day.
Thanks, folks. Thanks, Dale. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Bye.